Alrighty, boys and girls, here I am. Welcome back to the Virtus podcast. I'm here with a wonderful human. Sammy, welcome.
Hello, brother. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, we're going to start the podcast a little bit differently to normal. And the reasoning, the justification for that, we'll uncover as we go through the potty. But you want to kick us off?
Let's do it, sir. Let's do it. We're going to start with a few breaths. And I think it's nice, when you're listening to a podcast sometimes and maybe you're just listening to it because and you're sort of not really present, you're not really absorbing it. So all we're going to do, bro, so we're in the right zone as well, is drop in with 10 breaths. Good. And they're going to be in through the nose, out through the mouth, in for 4, and out for, say, 6.
For those playing at home, breathe too. It's good for you.
For sure. Here we go. So we are going to exhale in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. In through the nose. In. And long through the mouth. In through the nose. And long through the mouth. In. And long. Three more. In. And long. Last 2. All the way in. We're ready to drop in. Let's go.
Love that. What a start. Oh, it feels good. It's nice to take a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So good from you. Just a little plug before we get stuck in. Monkey Movement Workshop next week. This will drop on Sunday night, so you've got the whole week to listen to this. Realise that, hey, when you take a breath, you feel better. Come hang out with good people on Sunday. I'm sure we'll talk more about it. But Sammy, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
What gets me out of bed? My alarm. Nah, so much, bro. So much. I mean, I think that I am someone who springs out of bed because I've looked at and do something that fucking lights me up.
Good.
Good. I mean, I get to serve. I get to rock up to work and serve people and allow them and assist them to look into themselves. And that's what gets me up. Spring out of bed.
Have you always been the kind of person to spring out of bed?
No, I haven't. And
talk us through that journey and the shifts that you've gone through as a human to get to the person that wants to spring out of bed and is excited to get out of bed every morning.
Yeah, I mean it's
a big question. I know.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question because I think that is the journey that a lot of people wants to go on. They see this elusive thing that a lot of people have with like lots of energy. They see it on Instagram. Yeah. Why is this person getting up and feeling amazing? Yeah. And that is the journey. But I tell you what, surrounding yourself with people who are on that same journey, coming into a place like this, I think gyms are the modern day churches. They really are.
Agreed.
And in this pursuit of creating something amazing, it has allowed me to become and try and become great. And this pursuit of creating something great has led to me, realising, I guess, a greater potential in myself as well.
That's cool. Give us some maybe cliff notes of your journey over the last, say, 10, 15 years. What have you been doing? What have you been going through? What are the different evolutions that you feel you've gone through to get to this point now where you're like, all right, I'm becoming who I want to be?
Yeah, I think the last probably 3 years, this journey of the monkey movement has really assisted me in that. Previous to that, I mean, like travel, realising what's out there, realising that this bubble that we live in Mornington isn't, the way that the rest of the world do it. Yep. I mean, we are so grateful, so lucky to live in a place that we do. But I also think that we are sheltered from what else happens out there in life as well. So, yeah, I mean, travel's been a huge thing for me to get some perspective on how lucky we are here. I went through a journey of opening up this gym in Mornington, Good Life, which was a cool journey as well. That was more so like a sales and marketing type of role. And by the time that opened, we'd sort of pumped in almost 2,000 people. So that was very much like sales, marketing. But then more so, this last, I'd say 2 years, I've really gone on a deeper journey into uncovering who I am at a deeper level, where I want to go, what I want to do, and the type of impact that I want to make.
What drew you into the fitness world or the fitness world, the gym world? What initially drew you into that? Like when you were going through school, did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
My dad has always been involved in gyms. So I guess, again, the environment that you're around, almost creates the type of person that you are. So
something in that.
yeah. I've been inspired by my old man.
Yeah, awesome.
And he's gone through his trials and tribulations as well in business. And so I ended up working for him when I was straight out of school in a gym, and I've loved it ever since. I love the environment. I love the impact that it creates in people's world. I think I've been reflecting on that a lot the last couple of weeks, and I think we sometimes take it for granted.
Yeah, and I think being gym people, for lack of a better word, you kind of like, you see it on the ground level for what it is, people coming in, doing a thing to make themselves better, and like just doing the thing is enough some days, and other days you've got to push you got to push a little bit harder, and other days you've got to just be there and just show up. And I think we probably underestimate how beneficial just having a space is like that. Like some people have footy clubs, and some people have workspaces that push that self-edification, that growth. But a lot of people don't. And I think that we find it with talking through new members sometimes. They're just like, I've just been bouncing around to all these different places, and I just want to find somewhere where I want to be. And like one of our goals is to be like the last step on your health and fitness journey. It's like, it's not the last step, but it's the last step in searching for a place that allows you to grow and adapt. What do you think it is about the gym environment that fosters that growth?
You know what? It's interesting because I believe it's different for everyone. But from what I've seen, I've been working in gym since I was 18. I'm now 27.
Yeah.
And it's about the people. I mean, again, who you surround yourself with, you become.
Yeah.
And so, for example, if you're surrounding yourself with people who drink and do drugs, then you'll probably do that. If you're surrounding yourself with people who are continually pushing to be better, to feel better, then naturally that's who you become too. So I think that's the value in a space like this. That's the value in gyms, but it's the value in community. Community is number one.
100%.
All the surveys we've done about what do you like about us? What are we good at? Tell us how good we are.
The people.
It's about the people.
Yeah. And I think it's a realization you probably come to when you're maybe mid to late 20s, and your friendship groups from school that maybe you spent time with because it was easy and convenient, you tend to get to that stage of life where you're maybe 20, 21, 22, and you start to have to figure out who you are and what's important to you and what you value. And then, you tend to have a few of the friends that you latch onto because they value the same things and they believe in the same things. And for some people, it's, drinking VBs and going down to the pub and putting a bit of cash behind the horses. And other people, it's training. Other people, it's getting up early and going for a nice chilly ocean dip. Some people, it's doing your breath work, throwing deadlifts around, playing football. It doesn't necessarily matter what the thing is. But I think as you start to get a little bit older and your friendship circles get smaller because of necessity, because you're out working a job and maybe starting a family, all these kind of things, you start to realise that how important community is and how important support is and how important building a system or a framework around you where you have people to lean on and connect with and grow with. It's so important. And I guess gyms are lucky. Oh, for me, I say lucky, but they are what they are because of the people that inhabit them. But gyms allow people to connect with and grow with people of like-minded values because it's a space where you go to get better. It doesn't mean you're not wonderful for who you are, but it also means that we live on that tightrope of both being grateful for who you are and what you're capable of doing, but then having the desire to be and do more.
100%. We need that. We need something to strive towards, and sometimes that is a challenge. And again, I think we sometimes lose perspective on how hard it is for people to come into a space like this, maybe for the first time.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That the barrier to entry, and you spend a lot of time in the sales and marketing side of a gym, so you spend majority of your time going, how do we lower this barrier to entry? How do we, whether it be a free trial or whether it be a walkthrough or whatever, how do we allow people to get in the space? And that's what we find. It's like when we give people a tour, they're like, and I look at this space and look at everything that's wrong with it, but it's nice to have new eyes in here and say, and have them say, oh, this place is awesome. This is really cool. Like, I love this setup. It's a nice little reminder of like being grateful for what you do have and not just looking at all the flaws of it.
For sure. And I mean, I know you said before that you're spending a bit of cash on a new fit and some new flooring.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it doesn't, as much as that's going to be amazing.
It's a want rather than a need.
For sure. For sure. And it's continually, again, that's you trying to push the limits and push the barriers
level up
on
in different ways.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. But I mean, it is more than just a gym. It's a space that does allow people to dive into who they are, to dive into who they can become as well.
And when you're having a shit day, you can go to the gym, whether it be Good Life or Anytime or Virtus, it doesn't matter. You can go and see people that are going to put a smile on your face. You're going to work hard. You're going to get, you're going to do good things that the future version of you will thank you for.
Yeah.
And I think that's happiness isn't an absence of problems. It's being able to look at your problems and go, here's how I'm going to overcome them. And we do that by showing up, by doing the thing, and by connecting with people who are on a similar path. And I think I tend to find talking to such a big chunk of our community that the people who aren't necessarily, and happiness is an interesting term that we can maybe dive into if you want, but that level of contentment or level of feeling of progress and success happens when you are actively dissatisfied with where you're at. And like I said before, you want to be grateful and appreciative of where you're at, but there needs to be that level of dissatisfaction. I think it's like the human condition is if we have that level of dissatisfaction, then it kind of allows us something to work towards and something to grow towards. And rather than it being like, I'm miserable because I don't have a purpose, it just gives you a direction. It gives you something to show up for. And for me, that's almost like, the meaning of life, or the you get to decide what's important to you. You get to decide what you value and where you want to head. And then all you've got to do is find ideally a place and people who can help you do that.
Love that, bro. Love that. I mean, I love what you use there as in you get to create it, because you do. And I mean, sometimes it is easy to get stuck in other people's expectations and almost this rat race that a lot of people are in, and I get in it sometimes as well.
I
you know,
pendulum swing between we need more members because we need to be able to pay these bills or whatever, and then you're like, well, fuck, we need more members. Like ideally, we build the community and we add good quality humans to a already magnificent community that then make us grow and help us become a better space, and they get a space where they can grow, and you know the revenue or the capitalistic rat race side of things, that'll come if you do the right thing, or if you do the things the right way for the right reasons. But yeah, it's a hard thing to get unstuck from. You know, there's an intangible amount of macroeconomic factors that drive why we do what we do, or at least surface level why we do what we do. But when we really tap into like, why do you rock up and go to work? Why do you show up? Why do you show up for your sessions in the morning? You know, why do you want to lead people through breath and cold exposure and things like that? And when we allow ourselves the time and space to actually break that down, never has anything to do with the cash.
Never.
Never. You know, it enables you to do things like that, but it kind of, you've got to start with the end in mind, like why I'm actually doing this.
Mate, if the world did that, it would be a better place.
Absolutely.
Right? And again, that's probably more macro, large scale, but and we probably don't need to get into the government and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, if you do look at that, then a lot of these larger corporations who do need to push for a lot of money and everything, if they did start with a purpose and they started with why, I think the world would be a better place.
And I think that's the frustrating thing is most of those companies did start with that. They started with the why and the what, and maybe the founder had this utopian view, and then you end up, becoming a big corporation that's publicly listed that needs growth. And, our system... last thing I want to do is fucking bitch about a system for the next 45 minutes. But our system is built on exponential growth and the desire and need for exponential growth. And I think there gets to a point where, corporations or entities within themselves that are all made up, that when we start to value those things more than the person and the community and the connection that we're able to build, like the housing crisis is a perfect example of money over people. It creates a world that's more difficult to live in, and I think there's no surprise that large chunks of our society and our communities are struggling with mental health and physical health and all of these different things. And I think that if we can kind of go, all right, that's great, there's not a lot I can do with that on a macro level. What I can do is I can lean into my community, I can lean into my circle, and my locus of control becomes what I can immediately touch. And for those people around that are struggling with I can't do anything about it, then that's okay. You just do what you can for you. You make your world a better place first, and show up to the gym and do your cold exposure and do your breath work and spend time meditating and connect with good people. And then that has a flow-on effect that builds into your community and then grows from there. And I think if, like I said before, if everyone did that, the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what we're here for.
That is the purpose, right? Like when you look at the macro scale of it, it does come down to, well, you're right, I can't change that. And I can't change all these big things, and I don't want to. But what I can control is what's happening within my own mind. And what I love about this space, especially like to answer your question before, it is about the ripple effect that it creates. So say someone listening to this is in a space that they're not feeling themselves, and they're not feeling, maybe they haven't felt themselves for a little while. That can then turn into your worldview. Things are then, why is this happening to me? They sort of fall into this victim mindset, and I've been there before as well. But I mean, the ripple effect that's created through spaces like this and through people actually doing some work on themselves to better themselves, it's crazy the impact that has.
Oh, it's huge.
Because say
And it's
you've
contagious as well.
Oh, that's it. Say you've got 200 people who train here.
Mm.
Those 200 people go back into their families, into their work, and they feel great that day.
Yeah.
Say they've been coming for 2 years. Say they've been coming for 5 years.
Yeah.
They are a completely different person to if they hadn't been doing that.
Yes.
Same with breath work, with meditation. These are all just little tools that people can use to better themselves. Because when we can start with ourselves, it ripples out into our worlds, our families, our partners, our children.
Yeah.
And we create this better world.
And you just keep tipping into making your world a better place little bit day after day. Like, I love the idea of compound interest. Just like, if you put $10 in bank account every day for the rest of the year, then quick maths, it's going to be like 3.5K. But if you invest that, it's eventually going to keep growing and exponentially on top of it. Same goes for you looking after yourself in the gym. You're looking after yourself with some breath work, with some journaling, with some meditation, with good food, with good connection. And you end up, like you said, essentially a completely different or more evolved version of yourself. And when we talk about personal connection and edification and growth, we end up realizing that life is just about going, all right, well, I don't want to be in the same spot I am now in 5 years. Like, I'm not in the same spot I was 5 years ago. I want to keep growing and adapting, and there's going to be progression and regression in that. Like, it's never going to be linear. There's going to be days where you're like I read some of my journal articles that I wrote 3 years ago, and I really need, like, why don't I know that now? And it's just like a little reminder. And like, I was talking to Simon about that before we were talking about, because we used to do a heap of like leadership stuff. We would read and we'd talk about it and we'd podcast and we'd listen to podcasts and we'd discuss it, and we just spend so much time on that. And he's like, oh, I really want to lean back into some of that stuff. And I think that you've got to learn the same lesson multiple times. Like, this is the crux of being human sometimes, is you might go through a period where you're like, you meditate a bunch and you're feeling great, and then you'd stop, life happens and you fall off and someone asks you like, oh, you've been meditating? I'm like, no, I haven't. And you kind of go, well, I know I feel better when I do that, so maybe I do that.
Yeah.
I think we maybe miss the forest for the trees a little bit and try and make everything perfect, and just realize that if I just do the thing right now, like, what is something that's going to have utility to make me a better person in an hour rather than in 5 years from now? And you do that thing, and then it becomes a domino effect that knocks over the next one, and you end up realizing that it's just, we get, thousands and thousands of decisions a day. If you make slightly more right decisions than wrong decisions, you're probably going to be going okay.
Yeah. And I told you before about how you guys have been an inspiration for me, and
Love that.
I just I remember listening to this podcast a few years back when you guys had first started it, and it was just you and Coops diving into some beautiful topics about leadership, about, I think there was one about like big rocks.
Yeah, we did like during COVID, we did for our season 2, we did like a 10 episode series on 10 different topics. I think we did like movement, connection, the big rocks. We did leadership. Couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, and so I guarantee you, like, if you listened back to that, you would get so much out of it.
Exactly. So stop what you're doing. Go back to those 10 episodes. And they were in a time where, like, I reckon it was probably this time, 2020, where people were still stuck at home. I think we had a little open and then we closed again, and we had no idea what was going on. We're like, what are the things that we think everyone needs right now? And that's what we did. And I guess the cool thing is now that's there in posterity for us to go, when I need a thing, it's going to be there. And I can take my advice from me a couple of years ago, which is, like, when you remove the ego, it's kind of wonderful that you have that capacity that I have the capacity to look back. Anyway, this is not about me. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about, so we've talked about kind of what's important to you and what drives you and what makes you want to do the things that you do, but what is it that you do from a coaching perspective? Let's talk about monkey movement, and then what does the next kind of chapter of growth look like for you?
Yeah, beautiful. What do I do? I'm a personal trainer. Have been a personal trainer. I'm a breathwork facilitator, and I inspire people to become the best version of themselves.
Love that.
And as cliche as that is, that's what I see. And so, I stand in that very strong, like through doing these big rocks, through doing these things day after day. You see this compound effect that literally changes people's lives. So I guess I'm a human helper. I sit down with people. I have conversations about what's happening in their world and offer insights, offer really practical tools, techniques that have drastically changed my life. And I know that they change communities' lives as well. So yeah, I've been running a really cool space community called the Monkey Movement, which started a couple of years ago. And first and foremost, that was a space for training, for movement of the body.
Yeah, so that was the initial start. Like, the idea was like we want a space to connect people with movement.
Yep, with movement, and then sort of evolved into mindfulness practices, evolved into a few mates gathering down on the beach, and ended up with a very beautiful community of people who come together most weekends on the beach throughout summer. And, we had so many people come down. Initially, when we had a lot of people heading down, I'd turn to Lachie, my business partner, and be like, what the fuck is going on? There's so many people rocking up. So that's basically what I do.
That's awesome. It must have been, what was that feeling like out of the, just the shock and surprise of maybe pulling more people in than you want? I love this I love what you guys do, and I love movements like that because it's essentially, it has a gravitational pull. You guys have kind of set up, you've started doing a thing that set up this beacon that people have gone, I want to be a part of that. What was that like, going from a couple of mates on the beach to this, sizable workshops and events that you've been able to run?
It was amazing. It was interesting to just be aware and observe the correlation between my investment in myself, my investment in my growth, and then, how that correlated with that gravitational pull. But honestly, sort of just enjoyed it. There was
that's what it's all about. We talked before a lot about growth and wanting to level up and stuff. But I think a big part, there's a big part of me that's just a hedonist, that just wants to enjoy things and find pleasure in day to day. And I think you've got to find that balance between you don't want to be miserable, leveling up but be miserable. You want to have enjoyment and love for what you do.
Oh, leveling up can be so fun. I think sometimes it's hard. But when you become the person that you set out to become, it's a cool feeling.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. Some of the biggest things that I learned was just how to make people feel super safe, and I enjoy that journey. I enjoy chatting with people about life and having deep convos. So all in all, just such a beautiful experience to grow something and turn it into, just a beautiful, safe space.
That's wonderful. What's the growth, I guess, from personal training? You're very much one-on-one. You can just, there's small groups as well, but you're very much just one-on-one conversations. What was the shift like going from talking to one, and obviously you still do that, talking to one person, but to kind of having a group of 20, 30, 40, 50 people in front of you, all, listening to your direction of what to do and how to breathe. And what was that shift like?
You know what? I actually haven't reflected on that too much. But it was quite a natural shift because we sort of, did go from, say, 10 to 20, and then it sort of slowly grew up to 150 people were coming down.
So cool.
So probably the first time that I spoke in front of a lot of people, I was a very shy kid at school. Whenever I had to do those English presentations or whatever, I'd go bright red. And so I'd always had this nervousness about me. But slowly after that progression, I stepped into a different version of myself where I could stand up there and could public speak. Like I was always so afraid of public speaking, but I think doing that journey of diving deeper into myself, finding out, again, coming back to that purpose, like I would just stand up there and think about the impact that it would have.
Yeah.
So it was never about me. It was about, well, how can I impact someone today? How can I impact these people and start their weekend off?
And when you're authentically living your values and living what's true to you, it's kind of, there's no, like you still obviously there'd be moments where you're a bit nervous and you're a bit worried, like, oh, what if I say the wrong thing or whatever. But because it's all coming from a place of love and a place of, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and I should be here, I belong here.
Yeah.
I imagine that it would be significantly easier than if you were, talking to a bunch of people about something you didn't believe in, that you hadn't gone through the journey yourself.
Yeah.
So you had that. I would love the idea of, like, you can't give what you haven't got and you can't share what you haven't experienced, and you experiencing that growth and progression for yourself allowed you to then go, I've learnt a thing, or I've learnt lots of different things that help me grow, and I can help you guys grow. For
sure. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of times where I fucked up.
But you realise how little it matters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And I think, like, I would be aware of, like, how people respond as well. And so I would just start by saying, when I was, hey guys, I'm pretty nervous up here today.
Yeah.
And then, but it would just, like, sort of ease a little bit after that, after acknowledging it. So yeah, it's cool to reflect on that, actually. Thanks for the question.
What are the key, like, actions or things that you've realised that people can do that, maybe the little things that make the biggest difference over that kind of period of your growth and development?
Get the reps in. Just reps. Yeah. Repetition. When you know where you want to go, it's like, again, it sort of comes back to surrounding yourself with the right people, or seeing who's been there before. How can I get to that level?
Yeah.
And then just reaching out. Like, life's short, so yeah. Like, if you go up and ask someone, like, even I've asked you to come up here for a coffee one day. Yeah. We've had a couple of awesome chats. I mean, the last time I was here, probably spoke for about an hour. Yeah. And we were like, oh,
we should have recorded that.
We should have just recorded that. So yeah, I mean, surrounding yourself with people who can lift you up, who can elevate you, and when you know that something is good for you, exploring that. I mean, I'm very curious about becoming better. So, I try lots of things. How does that feel?
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't feel too good. I'm not keen on that.
Yeah.
Fuck it off.
Yeah.
Or if there's something that's powerful and that I can see a shift, like, again, the world that we are in right now, there's so much external force that can drag us away from ourselves. There's so much, everything's at the touch of a button, and we become so comfortable. So probably a better answer to your question is, like, getting out of that comfort zone, pushing yourself into that uncomfortable state, and that's where the growth is.
I like that. Like we take it back to, like, training, and it's just stimulus response. Like you've trial different stimuluses and see how you respond, and if you like the way you respond, keep doing that thing.
Yeah. Keep
increasing the volume or intensity of that stimulus, and it just goes from there. Like, I love that we can find those parallels between, like, physiology and our psychology and our capacity for us to grow both physically and mentally. Like, I think that's what I love so much about what you guys do, is that you started out as movement, and you realized how beneficial and how powerful the breath work and the connection and the inner understanding and awareness building essentially can be.
This thing, bro, this thing in here, your mind. I mean, yeah, when I first started training people, it was all about the body. And then I would notice that people would get unmotivated. They would have no energy. They would not have a great relationship with their food or a relationship with their body.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, well,
So
you know,
much
if
of
you're
this-
training 5 days a week,
Yeah.
you should be jacked,
Yeah.
right?
And you should be feeling great, but
Yeah.
it's the complete opposite. I think we forget, like, we're a brain and a body, not a body with a brain. Like,
Yep.
like a cool like thought experiment is like if you were to take your brain out of your body and put it in someone else, you're not having a brain. It's not a brain transplant; it's a body transplant. You're getting a new body, and I like that.
Wait.
Just that thought process is like it flips most of our assumptions and ideals on our head, because you kind of go, well, I can feel my arms, I can touch it, I can sense it, I can feel the movement, but really it's all just signals coming from up here. And I think if you realize that, you understand, it helps you understand that, well, maybe this is the thing I need to take care of first. That what are the things that make me feel better or make me more capable of problem solving or thinking or dealing with complex issues, and all of it comes back to your brain.
Yeah.
Like you can
Yeah.
you can do whatever kind of deadlift you want, doesn't fucking matter. But if you understand that brain drives everything else rather than everything else driving that, I think you realize that, all right, well, the big rocks I need to focus on is mental health first and foremost. And obviously it's a back and forth conversation, because movement helps your mental health and all of these kind of things. But I think that journey you've been on over the last few years has been that, kind of the brain comes first and the movement comes second.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably a good thing to explore. First point I'll say to that is that's a Black Mirror episode right there. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You should sell that. Secondly, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which comes first. Like,
I think whichever one you're not focusing on is probably the one you need to shift to.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think back to when I was really struggling, and sometimes you just don't feel like you can get up and move.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess you're right. It is whichever one you're not focusing on, but first and foremost,
you could add a third pillar of social and connection to that, and I think they're like, there's the biopsychosocial model. There's the three pillars to living well.
On that point, like living well, there's so much capacity and potential. Like the mind is a really powerful thing. And so when you do go, on a journey to like moving your body, yes, everyone should do it. Nutrition, like there's so much benefit in really looking into that. So much benefit in having a practice for your morning, like something just to have time with yourself. And so, yeah, maybe I guess for a bit of value for everyone, like I'm at a point right now that I've just been exploring all this stuff, as I said before, like exploring what works and really curious about it. And so the difference between maybe a couple of years ago when, I had experienced quite deep anxiety and panic attacks, those type of things, like that a lot of people experience now. There's a different way to feel. So it is going through like what works for me and exploring that more, continuing to get the reps in, and
and just keep showing up. What is what does your next evolution look like?
Yeah, brother. It's exciting, but I mentioned before that it's been a big week. It's been a big week. I have
got you at a heavy time, so feel free to talk through it however you would like.
Yeah, I mean it's emotional. I've decided to step into a new version of myself. I've decided to let go an identity and step away from the monkey movement.
It's huge.
It is, bro.
It's massive. And obviously you're still in it, right? So like articulating how you feel is probably a difficult thing to do right now. But how is that? Because obviously it would have been a process of decision making that you went through, and then making the decision, and then having the conversations. What was surrendering to that decision like?
Poor.
Because a lot of, so many people don't have the courage to make those changes, or the They don't have the belief in themselves that everything's going to be okay. Like, you've built this thing that you've been doing for the last few years, that to then step out of it it's a whole new, like, who am I piece, which is pretty exciting, but also scary as fuck.
Yeah, it's both at the same time. It's super exciting, but there was a lot of fear around the decision, and it has been a process too. I mean, probably a part of me was attached to the identity that came with running a business. You put all of yourself into it.
Yeah.
And so I went on a process. I invested in a process. I mean, a big part of my growth has been investing in myself, spending a lot of money on myself.
Yeah.
So that was at the start of the year, I sort of had like a feeling, and so just started to explore that. Because it's a big life decision, leaving a business or starting a business.
Change is hard. Just no matter what part of life we're trying to change.
Yeah. So really explored the decision, explored my identity, explored who I was, and then explored what's possible as well. And so there was a big question of like, what did I have to let go of in order to become this new version of myself, or realize that potential that I have. So it's it is a lot to let go of, because I love what I do. I love the people who I do it with. But there's just being able to listen to those voices in your mind, and listening to the right ones as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think for what you do, it would have been disingenuous to that if you didn't listen, and if you didn't explore, and if you didn't decide to make the decision that you thought was right.
Yeah.
So kudos to that. That's huge.
Thank you, brother.
I think you should
Appreciate it.
Like just take a moment to like be proud of making that decision. I think, because like I said before, a lot of people don't follow through with it. One of the things I love about our job is that we get to talk to people about what they're doing, what they're like, what's going on in their life, what's most important to them, what do they want to achieve, and like I couldn't count the number of conversations I've had that there were tears and big revelations to, I can't be doing my job anymore, or I can't be doing this, or I can't be doing that, I need to do this, or I should be doing this. And all it takes is like one decision to change your life. Don't go out there doing anything rash, but take a moment to be like, what do I want my life to look like? What is true to my values that I hold right now? Because values don't necessarily completely change, but they do evolve and shift. And what's incredibly important to you now is probably slightly different to what was 3 or 4 years ago. But you have the understanding that no matter what you decide, you're going to be okay. I think that must be a nice place to sit in.
It is, bro. Yeah, my body sort of just like eased a bit as you were talking then.
Yeah, good.
I forget what you said.
I can't remember either. But you're about to go on a little bit of travel to find yourself's a terrible fucking term, but to create space to figure out what's next.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, whatever I do next is going to be an evolution of what I've learnt, and the man I've become, which I'm really proud of.
That's awesome.
And so, I've had this trip booked in for a little while now. 4 or 5 months ago, we booked a ticket. So, heading over to Mexico, and I suppose just, for 6 weeks, like I'll be able to be in a space that I can create a really beautiful foundation for whatever's next.
Yeah.
I mean, life, it's so quick. It moves at such a rate, especially in Melbourne, in Mornington. Things are quick. There's this expectation to be at a certain place at a certain time, and I mean, as I said before, like travel's been a big part of that perspective shift for me. So, I mean, I'm so looking forward to having that time and space to create. I love getting in that creative space. I remember when I was creating the monkey movement. Like that was sort of a 6-month sort of process. So I'm really excited to be in that space next, coming from this, place of abundance and not survival. Yeah.
Mate, I'm excited to see you thrive when you get back and hopefully enjoy some of that space. And 6 weeks away in Mexico will probably make you realise that, or a nice little reminder that time is very relative.
Yeah.
And obviously it'll go quick, but there'll be days where you're just sitting in your thoughts and ruminating in that thought soup. And I think that's almost the most exciting part for you, because you get to go and just think and be, and it doesn't necessarily matter what you decide to do, as long, because it's all in line with your values, and you'll get to continue to become someone that makes the world a better place, which that's what we're here for, right?
That's it, brother. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Give us before we finish up, give us a quick little pump up / info packet on the seminar or the workshop where you'll be running next week at Virtus.
Okay, this workshop will change your life.
Put that on a t-shirt.
It will change your life. I mean, breathwork for me has been such a big part in me creating space within my mind, becoming in control of my nervous system, being able to shift and control my state in an instant. I mean, throughout this podcast, I love jumping on a podcast, so it's not too out of my comfort zone, but, you're still putting it out there to the world, right? Yeah. So I've been just having a little bit of attention on my breath and just slowing down. We'll dive into the science behind it, the real practical sense around like why breathwork is so potent and probably like why it's swept across the globe at the moment. I mean, I don't believe it's a fad. It sort of came into this fruition really quickly after Wim Hof and everything, and that's who I sort of found initially. And then, has sort of gotten really big with movements and communities as well. But I just give so much respect to it. So when I provide a workshop, like, as I said, like as much as I enjoy doing it, I know that there will be someone there that it changes their fucking life.
This is awesome. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So we'll dive into the science around it. We'll give them a bit of an experience. Very much a dipping of the toe in, but 30 minutes of really slow, conscious breathing. And in that, just give people some tools and some techniques to take away, implement into their life, and start to really practice it and know the benefit that it can have.
It's perfect. So get along, take the time for yourself, and future you will thank you for it, mate. The present me thanks you for this.
Thank you,
Pleasure
bro.
as always. I'm excited to see what's next.
Appreciate you. Appreciate your guidance. Appreciate the man that you are. And I love you.
The good stuff. Love you too, brother.
Have a good day.